Hi Professor, my name is Satyam Pansaria and today I'll be presenting how we can apply serverless architecture concepts to Algonquin page store. So let's start with our first slide. So here I'll talk about overview of Algonquin pet store. So here is the basic 5 points information about our Algonquin pet store, and here is a the architecture diagram which I'll talk about. So first of all, the pet store is designing using microservices. Each function like product, user, cart, or we can say the order is its own service. The front end, which is built using Angular, talk to backend via an API gateway. Data is mainly stored in the MongoDB. Here we can see the MongoDB and RabbitMQ is our for the data storage and REST API. The whole app is containerized and run on Kubernetes using Docker and Kubernetes. So in this diagram, I not mention in the Kubernetes and Docker, but I'll update by sure. Then in the third slide, I'll talk about serverless opportunity. So first of all, migrate background jobs. So there are many areas where we can improve the app using serverless. First, we can cut down infrastructure cost and improve scalability. For example, background jobs like order processing can be moved to Azure Functions. For workflow, use the logic of the organized workflow. So for the workflow, like sending notifications, logic apps are great. Also, we can remove the burden of manually scaling containers by letting Azure handle it through the serverless and eliminate a manual scaling of the container. Then we'll talk about trigger and binding of design. So in this slide, I talk about how Azure functions are triggered. HTTP trigger can handle API calls. Q-trigger can process order message. Blob trigger work well when we upload things like paste image. The output of this function can be found to Osmos DB or Blob storage, reducing the amount of glue code that we need. This 4 point is mentioned about which I'm talking. Then function chaining uh, uh, so for order processing, durable functions are great fit. We can chain together to step like validating an order, reserving stock, processing payments, and sending notifications. This setup helps us keep track of the workflow state and make error handling much easier. So basically, these 4 steps is all about which I'll talk in this slide. Then next slide is handling long running process. So there is first point is about use durable function with timeout policy. If we have process that take time, like image analysis or payment confirmation, durable functions allow us to implement retries and even compensate for failures. For example, if a payment fails, then we can restock the item using compensating logic. For the third point, implement compensating pattern for a rollback, which I already talked. Then I'll talk about CI/CD deployment pipeline. So that use GitHub Actions or Azure DevOps pipeline. So CI/CD pipeline is important for productivity and consistency. Uh, Also use GitHub Actions or Azure DevOps to automate the build, test, and the deployment phase. Then automated build, test, and deployment of the serverless code. So infrastructure can be managed using templates like ARM or Bicep so that everything is reproducible and version controlled. Integrate with Azure Resource Manager templates or Bicep. Uh, that for this CI/CD development pipelines. Then I'll talk about security monitoring and uh, observability. Observability. So security is crucial in a cloud native. Like here I talk use managed identity for security access. So yeah, it is crucial to manage in cloud native apps. It use managed identities so that functions can access resources without hard coding credential. Role-based access control helps control who can do what. So, and the last point, monitor with Azure App Insights and Log Analytics. So, Log Analytics would help us monitor performance and diagnose what issues in this like whole process. Then Logic App versus Azure Functions. There is a little bit like we can say difference I'll talk about. So for the logic app are perfect for a low code workflow like sending an email after an order. At the same time, Azure functions are better when we need full coding flexibility and faster performance. So there is a difference between these two, and the logic app offer connectors and a visual designer, while functions are great for DevOps pipeline and CI/CD integrate. For the last point, which I talk functions, they are more control and friendly in the Azure. Then messaging. Then next slide, messaging event and routing. So replace RabbitMQ with Azure service like Bus or Event Green. So here, instead of RabbitMQ, we can use Azure Service Bus or Event Grid. Service bus is good for reliable queues and topics. Event grid work well for event-driven system. Uh, yeah, in the third point, we can see the event grid, event-driven architecture that reactive systems. Moving to these services means better integration with Azure. Then throughout this project, the best practices and the overall summary which I talked to sum it up, it follow best practices like keeping functions stateless, using durable functions when we need to state, and ensuring we log everything. With these changes, the pet store app becomes a more scalable, maintainable, and cost-effective. Uh, yeah, this 4 point is I really mean which I am talk. So, for overall, the refactor app is more scalable and cost-effective and maintainable as well. So that's all. Thank you so much.